لا إله إلا الله.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وإذ ابتلى إبراهيم ربه بكلمات فأتمهن قال إني جاعلك للناس إماما. صدق الله العلي العظيم. رسالة صلوات. When it comes to Islamic teachings and the categorization of these different teachings that Islam has, we have the usual categorization that's out there is a categorization into three categories, which is the Islamic doctrine or belief system. We have the Islamic laws and Islamic ethical system or morality, so they call it. These are the three categories that they usually have for Islamic teachings. And out of these, when you look at it logically, you see that the most important, of course, is the doctrine, the Islamic belief system. Those beliefs that we need to have in order to be Muslim and in order to, inshallah, be Shia. Okay? And we have the Usul al-Din there. And to the extent, the importance is to the extent that you're not allowed to follow anybody else in those teachings. You have to reach a conclusion yourself. It's very famous that they say that when it comes to Islamic beliefs, you're not allowed to practice taqleed in those Islamic beliefs. That's how important they are. They are the foundation. Without them, no action will come from you. Okay, a person who doesn't know who Allah is, that Allah is the one to be followed in His commands. A person who does not know that the Prophet is the true representative, so to speak, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will not ever get up on his feet and abide by His commands, by the Prophet's commands. Okay, a person who has all of these beliefs down properly, you can expect action from that person, or else you can't expect anything from that person. That's how important beliefs are. So logically, you have to have the belief first, and then comes action, right? And of course, we also believe that without beliefs, without action, those beliefs won't do any good either. So it's a package here. Okay, it's a package, but logically, you have to have the belief first, okay? When it comes to these beliefs, there's different approaches to their exposition, to explaining them, to understanding them. Okay, some prefer to go to Islamic tradition. Others prefer to go to the Quran. There's different methods out there to explain, to argue for, to convince through, okay, these beliefs, and to have others accept them, or yourself. One method though, which is very nice, is the Quranic method. To refer to the Quran. Of course, you'll have to have put behind you several stages first. You'll have to, first of all, believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You'll have to believe that this is His book and everything in it comes from Him. But once you've put that behind you, taken care of that stage, then comes Nubuwwat, al-Imamah, Ma'ad. These things you can go to the Quran and see what the Quran has to say regarding these concepts. Okay? Others will sometimes go through the intellectual method. Okay? I want to prove Ma'ad through the intellect. Perfect. Excellent. Very good. That's also a way. But some details, brothers and sisters, can only be learned through the Quran. Right? There's so many details that there's no way you can get to except through revelation, except through divine knowledge. Okay? And that's the good part about this approach. So these different approaches, this approach meaning the Quranic approach, these different approaches therefore complement each other, complete each other. Okay? You can put both of them together, you can zoom in on one. Okay, but all in all, it's all good. Okay, any method you go for is good, but there's some special advantages, as I said, in the Quranic method. When you go to the Quran to learn more about these concepts, Okay? Now, tonight we're going to be talking about imamat, inshallah. Imamat in the Quran. Imamat is what sets us, the Shia school of thought, apart from the rest. Okay? A very, nowadays, you could say sometimes controversial concept of imamat. A lot of misunderstandings surround this concept. A lot of people will say that this is something the Shia have made up. It wasn't there before. You can't find traces of it in the Quran. Let's see if that is so. Okay, but when it comes to learning these concepts, learning more about these concepts, their details, etc., you either have to be an expert yourself when it comes to the Quran, or you have to go to the experts. Okay, and that's where I'm going to open a parenthesis here. Okay, that's what the ulama are for. Okay, nowadays, here and there, unfortunately, you sometimes hear things said that the ulama, they know a lot, but they don't have a grasp of what's going on today. They have their own traditional take on things. No, that's not the case. They spend decades of their lives, dedicate decades of their lives learning, delving into these sources to be able to bring out the answers, to conclude, and to give us the morsels, give us those fruits that they've picked from their efforts. That's what the ulama are for. So if you want to go to the Quran, Bismillah, it's good. But you will miss out on a lot of points most probably unless you're an expert yourself. Now, who is the front runner? Who is the person to go to in these cases, when it comes to these concepts in the Quran, etc.? The great Allama Tabatabai, rahmatullah alayhi, recited salawat for his soul. And I deliberately speak and mention names of these ulama because we have to keep their cause alive. We have to keep their way alive, or else what you see going on around the world today, that's going to be the natural outcome. All right, people thinking that they're experts. They also have a say. They also have an opinion. Of course, you do have an opinion, but you have to make sure you bounce it off of the experts. Double check with the experts because they've spent their lives in this way. So there's a reason why we keep mentioning names of these great ulama. Allama Tabatabai, the person to go to. Why? Because he has spent his life on the Quran, and you all know about his famous tafsir. But the difference in his tafsir is that he has some very, very detailed opinions out in there that he's derived from the verses that you really don't find anywhere else. One of those being this concept of imamat, as I said. So a person will come to you and say, imamat, where did that come from? Answer, let's go knock the door of Allama Tabatabai. Is there anything in the Quran about imamat? Because some people say there's nothing in the Quran about that. If it was that important, then why didn't Allah speak about it? Well, there's other reasons out there why explicitly mention hasn't been made, but at the same time there are clues. You just have to put those puzzle pieces together. That's what Allama Tabatabai does. That's what he's good at. That's what he's known for. Tafsir al-Quran bil-Quran. Interpreting the Quran through the Quran. Okay, very nice, impeccable points that he points to. Now when it comes to imamat, the reason why we have to spend a lot of time on it, especially through the Quran, is because there's a lot of misunderstanding out there. There's a lot of ignorance out there. People will come to you and will say, why did Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam not do what Imam Hussein did? Imam Hussein stood up against the tyrant of his time, but Imam Hassan, unfortunately, he didn't stand against the tyrant of his time. Now, it's up to you, brothers, to see. Look at the tone of this person, of this mustashkil, this person who's challenging. See what type of tone this person has. Sometimes the tone they have says that this imam was wrong. He could have made the better choice. Sometimes their tone says that. Sometimes no, the tone just says, I don't know what happened in that time. Okay, and what were the circumstances of Imam al-Hasan's time? Why did he have that ceasefire? Okay, if that tone is the first one though, I think Imam Hassan should have stood up and been brave like Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. If you come out and tell this person, explain to him, yeah, because brother, the circumstances were like this. He was betrayed by his followers. The generals of his army, they left him alone, etc., etc. This person has more of a problem than just not knowing what the historical circumstances were in the time of Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam. What this person's problem is that he doesn't understand what imamate is all about. That's why he's questioning with this tone. Okay? Now I'm just using tone as an example. Sometimes they will come to you very humbly and ask you. But still, it's up to you to diagnose what the problem is and see. And then explain if that's the problem. This person doesn't, if you explain to this person, yes, Imam al-Hasan, these were the circumstances of his time. He had no choice but to have a ceasefire. This person, since he doesn't understand what imamate is, tomorrow he'll come up with a new question and another question. You're not always around to answer his questions. Why is Imam Zaman not coming? Imam Sahib al-Asr al-Zaman, why is he still in occultation? Does he not see all of the oppression going on in the world today? How come Allah subhanahu, and then this goes on, this will go on and get to Allah even. Why does Allah let all this suffering and evil happen in the world? Okay, the problem gets worse. So it's up to you to diagnose first of all. And then if you feel that the problem is that this person doesn't know what imamate is all about, what you do is, you go to the Quran, you knock on the door of Allama Tabatabai, and he explains to you. The verse that I read in the beginning addresses imamate. وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنَّ قَالَ إِنِّي جَاعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. Alright? What happens? What's the story? You all know the story. Okay, let me read the translation for you very quickly. And when his Lord tested Abraham with certain words, okay, words, kalimat. Allah tested him with words. And he fulfilled them. He said, I am making you the imam of the people. Allah says, I am making you the imam of the people. This is Prophet Ibrahim. And that's what's interesting, is that imamate extends way beyond just our 12 imams, all right? Unfortunately, they've downplayed it a little bit and shrunk it, and the scope is so narrow that it just covers our 12 imams. No, brothers and sisters, imamate, Prophet Ibrahim was an imam. Wow. So what is this imamate all about? We'll get to that, inshallah, if time allows. He said, Allah said, I am making you the imam of the people. Okay, and then Prophet Ibrahim asks, what about my progeny, my descendants? Are they going to have the same rank? Allah says, my covenant does not extend to the zalimeen, to those who are oppressors. This also has another story to it. I don't think we'll get to it, but the first part, the first segment of the ayah we'll cover tonight, inshallah. Recite salawat. So the story goes like this. Prophet Ibrahim goes through many tests. They say, Ibn Abbas in his tafsir, he says that he lists like 20 of the tests that are mentioned in the Quran that Prophet Ibrahim passed with flying colors. But I'll just mention three or four. Prophet Ibrahim passes these tests. What are they? After so many years, he has a son, and he loves his son. And the love of a prophet for his son is different than a normal person for his son, especially if the son is a prophet. Prophet Ya'qub, you've heard the story. وَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ. He, out of sorrow, his eyes went blind. Sorrow for who? For Yusuf. He missed Yusuf, Prophet Yusuf. Okay, and it's interesting here. It says, وَبْيَضَّتْ عَيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْحُزْنِ. Out of sorrow he went blind. Some people say he went blind because he cried so much. The verse doesn't say that. The verse says, مِنَ الْحُزْنِ, from sorrow. You can find some psychology here. Very nice points in the Quran. Okay, we need people to extract those. So Prophet Ibrahim loves his son, but then he says, "Inni ara fil manami anni adbahuk." I see in my dreams, O son, that I slaughter you, I sacrifice you. And as you all know, Prophet Ibrahim, revelation would be sent down to him through his dreams. And his son says, "Ya abati if'al ma tu'mar." O father, do what you're being commanded. Fulfill these orders. Slaughter me, sacrifice me. That's one test. And you know the story. The other test. He's young, Prophet Ibrahim. He has dreams, he has a future. Alright? But then all of a sudden, he has to go and destroy all the idols when everyone's out of town. And he does that. He doesn't care what's going to happen, because this is the command right now of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He goes, destroys those idols. You know the story again. He's flung into the fire. What bigger test? Leaving his family in Mecca, in the Holy Land, and they say that he had to leave them there and come back without even getting off of his horse or camel or whatever he was riding. Sometimes when you want to bid someone farewell, you want to come down, you want to take them in your arms, etc. Here, the orders were, you take them all the way to that barren, dry land, put them there, do not get off of your ride, and go back. He says, "Oh Allah, I'm leaving them here, but you know what I have in my heart, how upset I am, but it's your command." Fulfills this one too. His migration to Damascus from Babylon, after he loses all hope, and a little more hope. He loses every single drop of hope there is, and the people being guided, he says, "Alright, it's time to go. Time to migrate somewhere else and spread the word there." That's why he says, "Inni muhajirun ila Rabbi." I am migrating to my Lord. He doesn't mean I'm migrating to my Lord. He doesn't mean that he's dying, he's passing away. No, what he's saying is, this trip, this migration is a command of my Lord. It's as if I'm going towards him. Because back then there was no planes, there was no cars, nothing like that. People would die on journeys. People would go for Hajj, they would never come back. It was a long trip. Prophet Ibrahim, he fulfills all of these commands perfectly. What happens now? Allah tests him with words. Now we can tell that these words were commands and tests. Allah tests him, he fulfills them. قَالَ إِنِّي جَعِلُكَ لِلنَّاسِ إِمَامًا. Now I am going to make you an imam of the people. Alright? Who's saying this? Who's explaining this? Allama Tabatabai rahmatullah. Okay? Slowly he dissects layer after layer. Okay? And explains the different stages. Okay? And it's very, very detailed. We're not going to get to most of it, but as much as we can, inshallah. Recite salawat. What's interesting is the verse says, I am making you an imam, but he was a prophet before that. Because some people might come out and say, okay, well, imam here means prophet. He's leading the people. The thing is, Allah puts him through tests. After fulfilling them, it's as if something has been added to him. It's as if he's developed spiritually. He's ready for something else. Okay, he's built that capacity. Now he says, Allah says, I'm going to give you this medal. Now you're an imam. So this shows that, okay, there's a difference here between imamat and nubuwwat. Being a prophet, receiving revelation, and being an imam. There's a difference. Okay, cool. That's nice. All right. So these are things, slowly we're moving our way towards it. Now, what is this imamat all about? All right, leading the people sounds very simple and basic. Leading the people, yeah. But a person who has a keen eye here will see that and will notice that this wasn't just given just like that. Okay? It was earned. So Allama Tabatabai, what does he do? He says, let's go look around in the Quran. Looks like this imamat is something special. Let's go around in the Quran and see if we can find any other clues about what this imamat is all about. What we've learned so far from this verse, Surah Baqarah verse 124, is that this is something that's got to be earned. It isn't given just like that. It has to be earned. Allah goes, looks around, there's 2 verses that he presents to us. Back then, during his time, there was no search feature on these Quranic softwares. And even if there was, all right, even if we look today, how come we don't have any more Allama Tabatabayis? Okay, he was one of a kind. Because of that, he was well versed. He had spent his life. All right. Nowadays, you put a Quran with a search feature in there, you still can't do what he did, because he spent his life. You have to become. It has to become part of you, the Quran, to be able to find verses like these and help out in understanding these concepts. Now, what are those 2 verses that he comes up with? 2 verses, you have heard it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وجعلناهم أئمة يهدون بأمرنا وأوحينا إليهم فعل الخيرات. Surah Anbiya, verse 73. Anbiya, verse 73. What does that mean? We made them, Ibrahim, Ishaq, Yaqub, we made them imams. But weren't they prophets already? Yes, they were prophets. And then we made them imams. Guiding, now here, this is what we're talking about here. Guiding by our amr. All right, we have a little clause here. All right, a little clue here, a little bit extra light here that sheds light. Okay, so being an imam has to do with guiding by our amr. What does amr mean? Let's translate it. Let's go open the dictionary and see what it means. Amr means command. Okay, so in the dictionary, when we're translating the Quran, we're going to say guiding by our command and go on with the verse. But that's not what Allama Tabatabai does. Okay, he wants more. That's one verse. Okay, we'll talk about the more. Another verse also. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنْهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَهْدُونَ بِأَمْرِنَا لَمَّا صَبَرُوا وَكَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يُوقِنُونَ. And amongst them, the Bani Israel, we appointed imams to guide the people by our amr. So 2 verses here. They both, when we're talking about imamate and prophets being imams, right after it says they were guiding by our amr. Twice. Alright? Sometimes it's just once. You'll say, okay, that's just the wording of the verse. But here, 2 different verses. This is Surah Sajda, verse 24. 2 totally different verses that aren't even close to each other. The same exact wording is used. Clue. Allama Tabatabai catches that. He catches that. He sees something there. Alright, he says, alright, so being an imam, when Prophet Ibrahim also becomes an imam after fulfilling all those tests, what does he have? He has guidance by amr, because he has imamate. And according to those verses, he has guidance by amr. So imamate equals guidance by amr. It's like a mathematical equation. X equals Y equals Z. If you find out what Z is, Y equals that, X equals that. But there's a problem still. The problem is that we don't know what amruna is. What is amruna? Okay, guiding by our amr. So Shaykh, you said, don't just pick up a dictionary and say, and translate it to command, and just translate it like that and go on. So what does amruna mean here? Of course, translation-wise, it does mean command. But is there anything here? Do we have anything in the Quran, once again, O Allama Tabatabai, that explains what amruna is? He says, yes, we do. And that's what's interesting about his method of tafsir. And it takes a lot of competence, brothers and sisters, a lot of competence. Okay? I don't know how close you have to be to the Quran, how aware of the verses you have to be for these verses to come to your mind. Alright? You don't know what imamate means? You find those 2 verses that have put guidance by the amr next to imamate. And then you want to know what amruna is, our amr is, you have 2 other verses. What are they? So you see the equation. Verses 82 and 83 of Surah Yasin. Alright? إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُ إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا أَنْ يَقُولَ لَهُ كُنْ فَيَكُونَ. A very famous verse. فَسُبْحَانَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ مَلَكُوتُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ or يُرْجَعُونَ, I'm not sure. Okay, here it says, it's talking about the amr. Alright? Allah is opening it up for us here in this verse. And we're going to use this verse to explain that verse. To explain what imamate is. Alright? One by one, step by step. And this is my Of course, I'm not someone to say this, but this is the expectation that goes, brothers, the great ulama that are sitting here, that we do this. We go, put our sleeves up, go in the Quran, go in the tafsir. The Quran, every person who has worked on the Quran and explained it for the masses has said that you feel the barakat, you feel the blessing of Allah in it. All right, the Quran is something else. So this is the expectation that everyone has of us who are serving the cause of, inshaAllah, the Ahlul Bayt and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says, all his amr is. You want to know what my amr is? All it is this. وَمَا أَمْرُنَا إِلَّا. Okay? إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُ إِذَا أَرَادَ. إِنَّمَا, we all know what that means, right? It's for exclusion. It says exclusively, his amr is this. إِنَّمَا أَمْرُهُ إِذَا أَرَادَ شَيْئًا. What is his amr? He says, be, and it is. And of course, this is symbolic. Be, it's not like Allah says be. He wills something, and it is. But his amr is this. That's the part we need. His amr is this. Okay? Instantaneous. No gradualism here. No, nothing slow. Time has no meaning. He wants it and it is. He wills it and it is. So his amr has to do with this. And then as we go in the continuation, in the next verse it says, so immaculate is he who in his hands is the malakut of everything. So saying be to something and it is the malakut of that thing. Okay? You have access to something. You have access to the existence of something. That's the malakut. Malakut equals amr. Okay? Innama amruhu fasubhan. Fa. The fa here shows that this is a result of that. So Allah has this amr. So immaculate is he who has the malakut of everything. Okay, so imamat equals guidance by the amr. Guidance by the amr equals guidance through malakut. This is what Allama Tabatabai is saying, brothers and sisters. Don't look at me like that. Alright, this is what the great Allama Tabatabai is saying. That's one verse that explains what amr is. Another one is Surah Qamar, verse 50. And our amr is but one. You want to know what our amr is? It's just one thing. What is that? Like the blinking of an eye. Okay, one. Blinking of an eye. Instantaneous. It has to do with the malakut once again. Both of these verses are pointing there. Okay, the blinking of an eye. When he wills, it is instantaneous. And then that's where you come to the philosophers and they'll explain to you, they'll say that yes, this alam al-wujud, there's two dimensions to it. There's the outer dimension, that's the material dimension, that's bound by time and space. Okay, it's limited. All the suffering has to do with this dimension, this facet of this universe. But there's another dimension as well. Some people might refer to this as wahdatul wujud. I don't know. They might say it has to do with that. I don't know. It's interesting because when you go here and there sometimes and you speak, some of the youth that are like 14 years old, they'll come to you and they say, Maulana, explain to me what wahdatul wujud is. And you're like, I don't even know what that is. Are you taking care of your wajibat, your muharramat? Alright? Now, two dimensions in creation, this alam al-khilqa, this universe, this material world, the outer and the inner. The inner they refer to as the malakut. That's where there is no limitation. Nothing is bound by time and space and material. None of that. Okay? According to these verses, a person who has guidance by amr has access to malakut. Subhanallah. So Prophet Ibrahim, when he becomes Imam, that's the special power that he has. And that's why it has to be earned. Because once you have access to the malakut, you have access to everything. Divine knowledge, that's what it means. They say, Ayatollah Bahjat rahmatullah alayhi recited salawat for his soul. he would say that our 12th Imam, he knows what we're going to say before we even say it. Ayatollah Bashir would say this, alright? I've seen the clip. Alright? So what does that mean? How is that possible? He knows what we're going to say before we say it. You have to have access to malakut to have the luxury of that. So a person who's an imam, I'm going to start wrapping up slowly. A person who's an imam has to earn it. When he earns it, he's given that imamate. What is that imamate? Guidance by the amr. Alright? What is that guidance by amr? It's a special type of guidance that has to do with access to the malakut. Or else a prophet is also guiding. A person who comes with the Quran, a person who comes with the Torah, is also guiding the people. So when these people become imams and have an extra type of guidance, what is that type of guidance? It is a wilaya takwiniyah. There's a special authority that you are given that you can have special extra guidance. Okay? And that's what all these people say when they say, yes, our imams are the best. Our imams, they know everything. This is, when you look at, if you want to make it technical, this is what's behind it. The verses like these and the ulama explaining it like this. So some people you hear saying, oh ulama, let us speak about our imams the way we want. And then they talk about the imams, and then you see that what they're saying is exactly what the ulama are saying. They don't know that they've gotten this, and this is the heritage of the ulama actually. Alright? So, we have a prophet. He's guiding the people because revelation comes down to him, and he presents it to the people. He has that flashlight, and he's beaming it on the path. He's showing you the path. And then you have imamat, which is a special type of guidance, which has to do with the inside, which has to do with that authority. The same way other prophets like Dawood alayhi salam and Sulaiman alayhi salam, they had control of the wind. They had control of a lot of things. They could understand the speech of the animals. Okay, these are all extra things that Allah gives to those who He wills and whom He desires, those who earn it. Same thing here. Imamat is something that's earned, Allah gives. Not only does that person now shed light on the path, but he comes. Now let's not say he takes your hand, but he stands right next to you. You feel him next to you, and he walks alongside you. Okay? A little extra push. Alright? To the extent, of course, that doesn't contradict free will, of course. We don't want free will. We don't want to compromise free will. But there's a little extra push in there. And that's why Imam Hussein, his cause has been alive till today. His message, this has continued. Even after the passing away of these great figures, we still have this. Okay? There's a lot to say here, brothers and sisters, but I have commitments elsewhere and time is almost up anyway. I hope I was able to give a little gist of how this works, what Imamate is all about according to Alamat al-Tabatawi. As I said, there's a lot more to say here, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by the right of Muhammad and al-Muhammad, to enlighten us with this knowledge of His through the Quran, through the Ahlul Bayt, inshallah, one. And two, inshallah, to implement and apply it to our daily lives, inshallah, so we can be of the delicious as well, inshallah. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.